Hi, I'm Mark Farner, and I'm the next guest on Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry, news on upcoming TV and DVD releases, and the rumor mill. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
Today on Screen and Beyond, our guest played in a band called Terry Knight and the Pack, and also Ringo Starr's all-star band, and a band called Grand Funk Railroad. You might have heard of them. He has spent his life bringing great music to the people with songs like We're an American Band, Bad Time, The Locomotion, Shine On, Some Kind of Wonderful, the classic I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home, and so many others. He has a new album out called Closer to My Home with a new version of this classic hit. It's Mark Farner. Mark, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
Thank you, Brian. Good to be with you, brother.
Now, Mark, as I told you before we even got on the air, I have been a fan of you since way back when, and it is such a pleasure and an honor to have you. I wasn't that small, but yeah, no, it is really a pleasure to have you on here.
I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate it so much.
Well, Mark, I got to tell you that, like I say, I've enjoyed your music all along, and I saw you in concert a couple of years back, and I was just blown away because so many artists, as everybody gets older, their voice starts to go. You are right on the button still. I mean, it is incredible.
Thank you, Lord. I serve love, and I think that's a big part of it. And it's exercised. My voice is exercised by reason of use. I sing when I'm in the barn. I sing when I'm out in the woods cutting with my electric chainsaw, making firewood. I even sing in the shower, dude.
That's the classic place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, like I say, it is. It really is incredible that, I mean, like I say, when you came on stage, this was quite a few years before COVID. I saw you at Hampton Beach. You were there with the Turtle Show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Happy together.
Yeah. And it was just incredible. I mean, nothing against all the other acts that were there. They were good, but I could have watched a whole show of just you, believe me.
I appreciate the encouragement, brother.
Yeah. Now, we're going to get into your album and everything else, but before everything, all the fame that you've had over the years, was music in your blood? Is that what you wanted to do, or did you want to be a baseball player or something?
Well, funny you should say that. It wasn't baseball. It was football with me.
Football. Okay.
Got injured. I was 15. I was coming up to my 15th birthday, and on a junior varsity team, I was a defensive linebacker over center, the roving reporter. I was in on most tackles. I could just see, even though I'm not the tallest man in the world, I can see beyond. And I kind of read the plays. And anyway, we were undefeated team. And because we all hung together, we were friends, real friends.
Mhm.
And so when I got injured, had water on the knee and fractured a finger, and the doctor told my mother, Mark is not going to be playing football this fall. He's not going to be running track. And I'm going, oh, you're killing me. Oh, because I lived, Brian, to hear my name called out on the loudspeaker. That was Farner number 66 in on the tackle. I love that stuff, man. I would be prancing across that football field. So on my 15th birthday, my mother, God rest her soul, got me guitar lessons, 6 lessons, and rented an acoustic guitar for me to learn on. And after the third lesson, the guitar teacher, because it was ringneck pheasant season in Michigan, it opens October 20th. He shot himself in the foot with a 12 gauge shotgun and told my
Oh,
mother, I'm not going to be able to teach Mark, but just have him go because he's learning, by vision, by sight, and by ear. Have him go hang out with the guys that have the band in the high school. And my sister Diane hung with them anyways. She'd play drums and they'd hang out together. And so I went with her and started watching those guys make the chords, and then they would show me a chord, or and I just kind of picked it up, and it was part of my upbringing. As far as back when I was 3, 4 years old, I remember looking up at all these grown-ups in the dining room in the farmhouse that we were raised in, because every Sunday we'd have a jam, and Uncle Brian and Grandpa Cotton, all these people, Uncle Woody, uh, these people would come over and jam. My dad played guitar and saxophone. All the women sang, but it was a very musical family. My mom moved to Flint, Michigan when she was 16 years old. Her family came to get jobs in the high paying job bracket in the auto factories. And so my granddad, her dad, worked at Buick, and my uncle worked at Turnstead. My other uncle worked at AC and Delco. And all of these people moved from the South, and most of them had instruments and brought them with them. We had friends from Mississippi and Louisiana, Georgia, North and South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. We had, Southern friends that moved up to Michigan, to Flint, Michigan, to get these high paying auto factory jobs. And so there was music all around, but it was like North meets the South. We had in Detroit, that's just where Motown was out of course, and the R&B shooting across from Windsor, Ontario. It was CKLW, Windsor, Ontario. Rosalie Trombley was the program director there, and she played the dance music, all of this R&B stuff. And so that's what we cut our teeth on, and that's why the music has that in it. It has that feel, that people keep telling me about this feel. It's like, you was influenced by blues and soul music and R&B, and well, yeah, that's all of that.
mm, yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. Now, as far as your new album, Closer to My Home,
My home, yeah.
My Home, that's a great album. You did a good job on this thing.
Thank you so much. Thank God for Mark Slaughter.
Yeah. And I was looking over some of the songs and, checking them out. And one of the songs that struck me, and there's got to be a story behind it. I know there must be, because Tiny Fingers,
uh,
I mean, it's so different than everything else in the album,
yeah.
but you got to have a story behind that, I would think.
Yes. As a matter of fact, Tiny Fingers is basically about my Lisa and my first son, Jason, because he was the first one of my boys. I watched all my boys come into this world, all our boys. I won't take sole ownership, but I watched that miracle and I just bawled. It was so enlightening, overwhelming, so enriching, fulfilling. And to have that in the song, because I started writing after my son became a teenager, and the world is pulling at them. No matter what we teach them as far as, manners or whatever, the world is going to have some kind of influence on them. Uh, and even though we want to jump in front of every bullet, they got to take some of those shots themselves.
Mhm.
As a parent, we love them, but uh, the Tiny Fingers is about that growing process. But I'll tell you, the first time that it's hard for me to sing that song.
Can
It is
imagine.
so emotional. The keyboard player that was with me back in North Carolina, where we did a biker gig, we went to sound check. There was nobody in front of the stage. Everybody's someplace else. Uh, so we're doing our little sound check, and the guys are still, working on there. I have already got my sound, so I just start playing, and I start singing Tiny Fingers, and all of these bikers start coming, walking up, and this is in the morning. This is before noon, and they're like standing there, and I'm getting all of these thumbs up,
Wow.
and guys are standing there with tears in their eyes, Bryant. So the keyboard player that was with me at that gig, Paul Ojibwe, he's a Native American as well, and he lives here in the state of Michigan. And he kept after me. He said, "Man, Mark, you got to release that Tiny Fingers. You got to record it." I said, "Record it? I can't even sing it." He says, "You did it at that biker." And that was a one-time deal. And it stuck in his brain. So for all these years, like 20 years, he was after me to do that song. Mark, man, you got to get that out of you before you die. You can't die with that song in you, and so what happened was Paul's daughter uh, passed away. She was in her 20s, his only daughter. My son, Jesse, our youngest boy, passed in 2018 on the 4th of July. And for, you know, timing wise, I called Paul because I was playing a little bit of Tiny Fingers when I was at Slaughter's in Columbia, Tennessee at the studio. And I said, I don't know. I got this other song because he said we want it diversified. I said, I got this other song. I said, it's hard for me to sing it, hard for me to even think about it, let alone sing it, but maybe I could get it done. And he started listening to it, going, "Oh my God, this is it. That's the song. That's what we need." So I call Paul Ojibwe and I tell Paul, I said, "Dude, you're going to get your wish. I'm going to record Tiny Fingers." He goes, "No, you're kidding me. You're going to do that?" I said, "Yeah, only one way I can do it though. You have to play keyboards on it." He goes, "Oh man, you name the place and the time." He says, "And don't try and pay me anything. I want to put this out with you for free." His heart was in the right spot. I told him when and where, and we got together, and he laid down the keyboards to a scratch track that I had put on, so just so we'd know where we were in the song.
Mhm.
And I laid my acoustic guitar to that same scratch track. Then I sang, you know, a, uh, a vocal for it. But we sat down after he put his keyboards on. He came over in front of the stereo speakers in the studio. We both sat there side by each, looking. I hit the play button. And it wasn't, you know, 6 bars, 8 bars into it. We're just crying, hugging each other. Just that emotion that is in us, these musicians that cut that song, those emotions that we have are real. And I believe that they found a place to talk in the song.
Mhm. Yeah.
His keyboards, yeah, it had to be him. Nobody else could have felt it the way he felt it.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, it like I say, I mean, I love the whole album, but But that song, I don't know, it just grabbed me when I heard it. It's funny how a song will do that.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you. And thank you for that encouragement, for sharing that with me because sometimes us old guys,
Yeah, but and then all the other stuff on the album is the old what I expect, the rock and stuff and everything, except for real. Real starts a little, it tricks you. It's get that little slow beginning, then all of a sudden, bang, it hits you again. So,
yeah,
but now one of the things, why did you decide to redo "I'm Your Captain" closer to home?
the original version, I'm Your Captain, on the Grand Funk album was in the American standard, the tuning standard for the United States, which is a 440, 440 hertz. And that was established in 1953 by Rockefeller. Prior to the A440 tuning standard, the old standard was A432, count backwards from four. So you never forget it, 432. And 432 is a natural range, a standard that blends with all things natural. And uh, let me just give you a visual of that. What got me interested in this guy sent me a link. I watched a man put a 15-inch speaker right up next to a kiddie pool on his deck. The kiddie pool's got water, 6 foot, and he put the tone generator at A2 in the 440 tuning standard, in the 440 range, 440 hertz, and played that one single note at 125 decibels. And 90 is the threshold of pain. So you can imagine 125 is cranking.
Hmm.
And so 125 decibels, this kiddie pool is jumping up and down like it had legs on it. I mean, it was just froth on the water, foam, waves. There was a storm in that 6 foot pool. And it was from the volume, the sheer volume at 440 tuning. Because when he shut it down, waited for the pool to settle back down, in 432 hit the same note at the same SPL, 125 decibels. It was like a piece of glass. There's your visual.
Mhm.
Now, why wasn't it jumping up and down like it had legs on? I mean, why wasn't there that that completely got my attention. And it had to be something that drastic for me to wake up. Boom. I said, okay, now you got my attention. I called him. I said, okay, dude. Because he said, when you get done watching the link, call me. So I said, you got my attention. What is this? And it's part of the solfeggio scale. And if you were to look it up, the tuning standard, um, 432, it is natural with all things. And, our bodies are made up of like 80, 90% water.
Mhm.
So when you're being hit with music at the tuning standard of A440 that Rockefeller changed in 1953, I don't know why he changed it. I never did get to that part, but it doesn't, something in the milk ain't cream, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And 432, this whole album is in 432. I wanted to redo I'm Your Captain because it's the 55th anniversary and so many people, a lot of veterans hang on to that song. A lot of our veterans, you know, no matter where they are in this big world, I know where they want to be. They want to be back home and they're fighting so they can get back home in one piece. And so the 432 tuning is going to take it deeper into the hearts of people, especially those who are looking for a little of that guidance, the spiritual awareness that there's something going to bring them home. And that is the purpose of re-recording it for no other reason
Yeah.
than we needed to do it in 4-3-2. And I think it turned out great
Oh yeah.
myself. It's not the original. It doesn't have a real orchestra on it. Like Tommy Baker was the band leader of the orchestra. He was the band leader on the Upbeat show in Cleveland, Ohio, which was a regional rock and roll show that, they'd have live bands on there playing all the time. James Brown and the Outsiders, and I mean the Grassroots, and a lot of the bands from back in the day
Mm-hmm.
played on there. So Tommy Baker wrote all of the orchestra and did all the strings for I'm Your Captain, and also Loneliness on E Pluribus Funk. So we just did it best we could with what we had. I played bass on it this time, and I played the guitars, and the rest of it we just did. uh Drummer from California, uh Joshua Egan, he did a tempo map of the original song. Because back then we didn't play to a click track. Everything since like the 80s was cut to a click track.
Mm-hmm.
Even all the country, everything cut to this code. It's a code. You follow this. It's like AI leading the band.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
Seriously. So we did the tempo map. Josh did the map, and he played the drums and picked out Ludwig drums to play on it because that's what the original version had. It was Ludwig drums. So that is the only thing that resembles the original song.
Hmm.
The rest of it is, it's in 4-3-2.
Yeah. With that, when we're talking about the 4-3-2 and all that stuff, seems so it seems so I've heard something about that. Either the Egyptians or the Mayans or something did a lot of this harmonic tone stuff like that. Am I wrong or?
You're right on. Yeah, and a lot of people have used it. I guess YouTube has some channels that play this music from the solfeggio scale at 4-3-2, uh, that so people can go to sleep. It just
Mhm.
calms them down, gives them, a place for their mind to be other than wherever it goes when they're trying to go to sleep and all
Right.
the thoughts are overcoming them, consuming them. I can relate to that.
Yeah. Wow. And now, um, what about songs that you did with the Grand Funk, like "We're an American Band"? I mean, that's a classic too. Did you write that one with one of the guys or?
Wrote the music part. I wrote that drum intro that's on it, and I said we got to have a cowbell on this song. And Brewer says, "Well, I don't own a cowbell." I said, "Well, it's screaming for a cowbell. It wants a cowbell up there." And I said, "You playing that drum lick on the intro?" Because I showed him what I could hear, you know, and how to play it off the bass drum. And he said, "Well, okay, I'll pick one up on the way to rehearsal tomorrow." I said, "No, pick up six, and we will pick the one out of those six that is closest to being in tune with this track,
Hmm.
which was in the key of D back then." And then I heard him, Brewer, who wrote the lyrics to it. He was playing a two-note kind of a chord and a basic structure, but I could hear that. I could hear it way more, rock. And I said, "Well, I hear it like this. And he's go, "Yeah, yeah, okay. Let me try to sing it to that." And so that's how it kind of evolved into it. But he is responsible for the lyrics. And after we got done recording it at Criteria in Miami, because Rundgren wanted to record the vocals at sea level for some reason. Well, when we got done with the recording, Brewer came to me and he says, Mark, I've never had 100% right credit on any song. Do you mind if I take it on this song? I said, no, go ahead. Because I am a nice man. I I purpose to be a nice man. I want people to know that it doesn't hurt to be nice.
Hmm.
You know, it
Definitely.
just and other folks have said, "Ma, look at what they've done. They've used it against you." I go, "No, no. My heart was in the right spot when I said yeah." And so that's where I'm going to live with it. I'm not going to buy into anybody else's, "Oh man, they did this, they did." I'm not buying into that. I got my reward when I said, "Yeah, go ahead and take it." Because love is a rewarder of those who diligently seek it. And that's what I'm doing with the rest of my life. I mean, I won't serve any other master. I'm going to serve love. And my songs show it. And hopefully, my walk through the rest of these days will show it.
Hmm. Yeah. And this album, I mean, it is just, it shows you still got it. That's for sure.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. Now, as far as touring, are you still out and about? Do you have any tours coming up?
We're building up a tour to back up this album. We've got a few dates left on the calendar from last year. I think we're out the 5th and the 7th of December, and then we're out on a cruise, a rock cruise. But then next spring we start, and my manager Abby Steinman and my agent Jim Lenz from TKO are putting together a tour for us to back up this album, and it's going to be, you know, all over. We'll do any place where people will gather. We're going to be there. Uh, some of the venues will have the portable Vietnam Veterans Monument with us, the portable wall. So
Wow.
people can see some people have not gone to DC to see this, but I, before I actually went to DC to play my song for the Vietnam veterans on the 25th anniversary of the wall, I saw pictures of it. I knew what it was. I felt it in my head, but when I went there and I walked up to the wall and I looked and there's 58,000 names, the sorrow overcame my heart. I had to just get down on my knees and thank God for the diligence of these brothers and sisters who followed orders, you know, innocence. Uh, when I played the song that night, my band came. We did the show. We gave them uh, a full show. All they wanted was for me to show up with an acoustic guitar and play it. I said, well, if you're going to have stage and lights and a PA, I'll go you one better. I'll bring my band. I'll bring the tour bus and we'll play for you. We'll do the show and I'm Your Captain will be our exit song. So we're in the dressing rooms warming our hands up on light bulbs. Brian, it's 36 degrees out there. But when we took the stage, uh, you sure couldn't tell. We
Yeah.
warmed it up, and when we got to I'm Your Captain, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Not only U.S. service people, but our Canadian brothers and sisters as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our
You
neighbors.
you seem to have a big connection to veterans. You remind me a lot of I've had Gary Sinise on the show,
Mm,
and Gary is very much into helping out the veterans and Joe Mantegna too was on the show.
yeah.
And what you say sounds a lot like what they are out doing also.
Awesome. Yeah. These people, there's not a better bunch of folks, really. Their heart's in the right place. And you know what? They learned how to follow orders at home. I remember when I was just a little shaver and my mom was telling me to do something. And I looked up at her and I went, "Why?" She said, "Because I said so." and and I tell you, that is our soldiers. They have to do what they do because somebody told them to.
Hmm. Yeah.
They might not love, this war that they're in. They might not even follow to understand what caused it, who's causing it, whatever. They're following orders.
Hmm.
And there is an innocence in that uh, that just, it won't leave me alone. My dad was a tank driver in the 7th Armored Division, and he returned with 4 bronze medals. He was in 4 major battles and lived through it, but he died as a fireman in the city of Flint, Station 4. Him and a fellow fireman were struck by a train at a crossing where there wasn't any lights, and it killed them both.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Well, I was 9 years old, and I was real sad. My mother, who was the first woman in the United States to weld on Sherman tanks at Fisher Body in Flint, Michigan, you know, that was uh, that was devastating to her.
Sure. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we're getting down toward the end of time here, but there's so many other questions I would like to ask you, but I know we can't get to them. But the do you are you constantly writing songs? Is
Yeah.
this something you do all the time? We don't
Yes.
hear them all.
That's right. I have quite a few uh, that we didn't get to, and I just started one day before yesterday. Uh, my wife, I play the electric guitar without the amplifier. When I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3:30, whenever it is, I go down and I start playing my electric guitar. And I was, trying to discover these chords that I was hearing because they were unlike any other chords that I had played before. So I'm making the formation of these chords, and Lisa had come down and she said, "What is that song that you're working on?" I said, "It's just coming to me. I've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 days here." And she says, "Yeah." And she says, "And from the first time I heard it, it has gone through my mind over and over and over all day long. I'm doing it just as I'm baking a pie. I'm hearing that song." She says, "I think that song's a hit." She said, "There is something to it." And I do too. Listen, Brian, if I didn't think that song was a hit, I wouldn't work on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think every songwriter has to believe that much in what they're doing, really, to make it happen. And a lot of them, of course, they just get put on albums, but you get lucky and you get a few that people catch on to and push it out of there and make it a hit.
Well, you've given us a lot of of those ones that get in your head and keep you going, you know. So, Mark, I want to finish up with one final question,
Yeah.
and it's sort of a double question. But when you sit back and relax, what are your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what are your favorite movies now and of the past? And I'll throw another one in. Who was your favorite groups when you were growing up?
Hmm. Well, since we don't watch, the only thing we have is Wi-Fi here. So in order to watch a movie, we just have to go to uh, Amazon or
Mhm.
Netflix or something, and stream something. But we don't do that much. Lisa and I, we think that the modern movies are, a lot of them are just immoral, for our way of thinking.
Hmm.
And so we abstain from allowing any of that horsey poo poo to enter our brains. But let me tell you about some of the acts, some of the bands that influenced me, and the right off top of my head was Fresh Cream. You know, the album by Cream, and that first album was the only album that Clapton got that sound on. I mean, his guitar, man, it was beautiful. The tones, you could hear the wood of that Gibson just singing. And I, I've got my own favorites, but a lot of people, you know, from with Bruce singing, "You with me, my love." Da, 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 da. You know, he was singing to the melody of Clapton's Gibson, and playing the bass behind that, just killing it. And we used to take the record, take the needle and drop it back to the front of the groove, and then listen, and then do it over again, and just go through that. Oh, my friends and I,
Hmm.
we loved Cream, that first album. After that, I don't know what happened to the guitar sound, but Jack Bruce, what a singer, and what a special guy. I got to play with him in a Walk Down Abbey Road tour in 2002. Jack Bruce was bass player on it. It was great. Um, Outside of that, the Yardbirds with Jeff Beck playing guitar. Train kept a rolling. That song, I loved that song. I loved seeing the Yardbirds in Flint, Michigan at the IMA auditorium, and our manager got us a, a side stage. We could, as long as we didn't make any noise or make ourselves obvious, we could stand there and watch the band. So we're standing side stage and watching, eh, and here's Beck laying that Telecaster on its edge on the stage, and he's got it cranked to 11. He's got the amps cranked, and he's doing this. He's, he's putting on a show. Like he's the one making that guitar scream and beller and whatever it was doing. Man, it was carrying on, and people were loving it, and we were, us, 18 years old. I'm over there looking, going, "Oh my God, look at what he's doing," and he was entertaining. It fed us all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
kind of got me, like, "Oh man, I got to do some of that." I needed some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
Mark,
okay.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. And everybody should go out and get your album, Closer to My Home. It's a great album. And
Thank
if they
you.
can catch you in concert, that'd be great. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
I appreciate it, Brian. God bless you. And never mind about that funny smell in their dressing room that we went up and smelled.